Hey friend, this is episode number 530 of the ANSO podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents ANSO with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
ANSO.
Hello, friend. Welcome to the episode. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Thank you so much for being here. I am in Colorado recording this episode, and I'm in a cedar closet with no lights. So I'm using my iPhone camera light or my flashlight on my iPhone, and I am tucked away in an upstairs closet, which is not the best acoustics because it is literally solid wood, but we're doing the best we can. That is what we're doing. So I am on vacation, and there is still a lot of work involved when I'm on vacation. So I'm really just on a vacation from my office so that I have less distractions to get things done, but also have a way for a little bit of an escape, because truly Colorado is a happy place for us. And yeah, so I'm here and we're already thinking about how long we're coming next year. And it's a joyful place for us to be. So my garden is being tended by my neighbor, and we did unfortunately just have a wicked storm a couple of nights ago, and one of my pecan trees lost a really big limb, and I'm really sad about that because it's a stately pecan tree, but also a wicked storm. So I have no idea how my garden fared. Fingers crossed that it didn't fall apart, especially considering my tomato plants were put in last week. So I'm just hoping for the best when I get back. But we did finally get our invoice for our electricity. And so I'm mailing that from Colorado so that we can get that on the schedule so that we can have power out to our property. And what else is going on with the land and the house build? Oh, I am trying to figure out tile and appliances, and I do need to get back to Lowe's on some of the things that they are asking me to give them. And I'm still, I think, waiting on the district manager to give me updated pricing on what we already have. But I realized when I was going through my window measurements with a fine-tooth comb that my original window bid from Pella was inaccurate. There were 2 windows that were wrong, and that's the information I gave to Lowe's. So I have to fix that, which is not a big deal, but definitely something that needs to get fixed because I don't want to order a wrong size window. All right, let's talk about books. So I recently finished Blackberry Pie Murder and Double Fudge Brownie Murder. Both of those are the Hannah Swenson mystery series by Joanne Fluke. They have a ton of recipes, so if you like sweets, then this is a series for you just for the recipes. But if you also like fun murder mystery, then definitely pick up the series. So I think Blackberry Pie was like number 17. Double Fudge is number 18. So I am reading Wedding Cake Murder, which is number 19 in the series, still trekking along through The Women of Arlington Hall. And I just started, because I brought it with me, a tangible book, a real book, The Body in the Backyard by Lucy Score, which is number 4 in her series. And I cannot remember the name of the series, but it's a good one. And I love me some Lucy Score. So those are the books that I'm currently reading while I'm here. And now let's get into search bar confessions. I've been doing a lot of Googling this past week, and because last week was a little dingy in the Google front, But this week I made up for it. So I saw a fellow gardener, talking about what she sprays her tomato plants with. And it was like a combination of fish fertilizer and a little bit of Dawn dish soap. And then there was a product I'd never heard of called Xeritol. And I was like, is that organic? What is that? I've never heard of that. And so I had to go Google, and it's supposedly organic, but then it has a lot of warnings, and it's not safe in California. So why would we be putting that on our plants? So I will not be investing in Xeritol. Yep. And last night, my husband was like, hey, Kobe Smulders was on my show, Shrinking. So he usually finds a series when we come to Colorado to kind of binge. And so he picked up Shrinking on Apple TV, and Kobe Smulders made an appearance, which she's famous for being in How I Met Your Mother, amongst other things. But the last time we were here in Colorado for a lengthy period of time, which was last summer, we binged How I Met Your Mother, and she was a staple on that show for many seasons. Also, recently, I Googled Texas cottage laws because I wanted to understand what all I could sell through my farm stand that I made personally and what my limitations were, etc. And this happens to be farmers market week in Texas, or maybe it was just a single day. I don't know, but I got an email from Texas Agriculture and the Ag Extension Office, or AgriLife, which is through Texas A&M. And it was like, celebrate with us. And they had a PDF for Texas cottage laws. They do also have a course that you can take that probably dives more into this, but it was a fairly robust PDF. It was 4 pages. And so I kind of got the gist of what I was able to do, because it all, I was thinking, okay, what else could I add to my farm stand that makes sense? Can I make cookies? And then I saw somebody making basil salt, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have a ton of basil. And so, all the things are spinning in my head, like what else could I offer to my community that they might be interested in? But you definitely have to follow Texas cottage laws in order to do those things, cookies or basil salt. I also have been having a problem in the morning when I wake up, so I Googled foot bones hurt in morning. And I think ultimately I have diagnosed myself with plantar fasciitis, which is very common it's very common in a lot of humans. And so I think that is what I have, and I know how to fix it. But I was like, why do my foot bones hurt so badly in the morning? Thanks, Google. I've also been Googling tile because that's another part of our home build process. I'm in love with a black and white tile combination, and not like super shiny, like I would like it a little bit more matte looking. And Chris Loves Julia on Instagram and even their website, they are renovating or recently renovated their bathroom. She already has a lot of black and white tile in her home, but I specifically loved her main tile in that bathroom. And I was like, okay, now I have to go on the hunt. She hasn't said where that tile came from yet. I do need to email because maybe she'll tell me before I have to wait. But ultimately, it's like a big chunky black tile. It's probably a 12 by 12, maybe even an 18 by 18, and then a little 2 by 2 white tile. And I think it's just enough like white that is not a true checkerboard pattern. And I'm wanting to do that in my primary bathroom. I'm not certain if I'll do that in my guest bathrooms, maybe something similar. I don't know. I just know I want really dark, moody navy color in my bathroom. And I think the black and white tile would be really pretty in there. Okay, what else? Ooh, we went fishing a couple days ago and we caught a bunch of trout. I caught a bunch of trout actually, and I lost quite a few trout because I didn't hook them appropriately. I have to work on my hooking abilities. But we ended up with 3 trout, and it was enough for me and Chad, and we cooked them that night. And I just did a soft breading on them and cooked them in butter, or lightly fried in butter, and they were good. So that's what I was Googling, how to cook fresh trout, because I'd never done it before. And then also we Googled how to use our boat in Colorado. Like, is there some kind of a process? You have to go get your boat inspected? And no. You can bring your boat as long as it's registered in the state that you call home, and you're able to use it for up to 60 days in Colorado on another state's registration. So we were all good. We didn't have to go do anything special with our boat. And then also looking at appliances for our house. So I've been Googling that, and nugget ice makers, which is not an easy thing to find if you're not wanting a countertop version. Like, I think Vivo or Vervo, I don't remember the name of the brand. I think it's Vivo, which we already have one of their ice machines and it does really, really well, but it's not Nugget. But I think that is the ice maker that we will be putting in our home to have the Nugget ice or the Sonic ice. And so I've been Googling that. And then we were in a Dairy Queen on our travels here to Colorado randomly and saw a steam engine. It was a picture on the wall, or a plaque on the wall, and it said the George Washington 1836. And I was like, what is that about? So of course I Googled and learned all about it. And then my husband and I were talking about stocks, and he made a comment about the Magnificent Seven. And I was like, what are the Magnificent Seven stocks? And so I educated myself on the Magnificent Seven, which, in case you're curious, includes Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla. And now we both know what the Magnificent Seven stocks are. So that makes up my search bar confessions for the week, which I feel definitely made up for what I didn't Google last week. Okay, so let's get into this week's business nugget. And I want to talk about why first impressions matter in business. And I have two scenarios. First scenario is this Airbnb, which is really not an Airbnb. It's a Vacasa home. And the other is the grocery store here in town. And I'm sure if you've listened for the last couple of years, you've heard me talk about this grocery store, but we're going to talk about it again today because first impressions do really matter. And even with this vacation rental home, so we ended up in South Fork a day early. We had originally planned to come into town, drop our boat off at our friend's house, and then go up to Lake City and do the Alpine Loop, and then come back the next day and check into our vacation rental. Well, when we got here, just getting here was kind of an ordeal. And by the time we arrived here, it just didn't make sense. First of all, I couldn't find lodging in Lake City. And Lake City, if you aren't familiar, is a very, very tiny mountain town. It's in the middle of nowhere. You have to go through a massive, windy pass just to get there. And as the crow flies, it's not very far. But to get there, it takes forever, and you can't drive very fast because of the switchbacks. And so there are no commercial hotels or motels in this town. It's all privately owned, which is great because it means that they've been able to maintain the historicalness of the town, the quaintness of the town, etc. So all that to say, I was unsuccessful in locating lodging that seemed suitable enough for a one-night sleep. And so I was a little worried that we would get to Lake City, we would do the Alpine Loop, and then we would be driving back in a mountain that we don't travel very often in the dark. And that just didn't sound fun. And so we ultimately ended up just staying an extra night here in South Fork before getting into the vacation rental. And so I messaged Vacasa and said, hey, is there any way I can reach out to the host of the home or the owner of the home or whoever is managing the home here to request an early check-in? And they said, well, you really can't, but if you get an early check-in, you'll get an email or a text notification tomorrow. And I was like, but with Airbnb, you can actually directly message the host of the home. And why can I not do that? And they're like, well, because we're the hosts. And I'm like, no, you're the booking company. You're the vacation rental company. Like, you allow people to use your service to host their home through your service to, get to a broader audience that might be searching for a vacation rental. But you don't own the home. Like, I did my research. I know who owns this home, and I'd like to email them directly and request an early check-in. And basically, you cannot do that with Vacasa, which I think is a very terrible thing. Like, it is not their business model to allow you to have any connection to the owners of the home or even the hosts of the home, because one of the places that we stay in this town, a different property, we were able to actually communicate with the property manager, and that was not the case with this one. So kind of shame on Vacasa for having that when people are used to Airbnb. Like, I'm not used to using Vacasa. I'm not used to using VRBO. I have used VRBO more than I have Vacasa, but I have used Vacasa one prior time, and I don't remember it being this challenging to request an early check-in. Like, it was very strange. So we end up having just to bum around the town until we could get in at 4:00, which we found things to do, but was a little bit of a bummer because we were all still crammed in our Jeep, and we had our boat over at our friends, and it was just a thing. It was just a thing, too much of a thing. And so then when we finally got checked in, first of all, I knew that this home had cameras, and the camera part doesn't bother me, but the amount of cameras actually kind of bothers me. There's cameras on all four corners of the front porch, so it feels like you're being watched. And I get it, because these people that own this home don't live in this town. They're not local, and there's nobody really watching their home. So I get the cameras, but it feels a little intrusive, and I don't feel like I can just go out and hang out on the porch, which is quite lovely. And so that is a bummer of this property. The home itself is fine. It's actually one of the nicer ones we have stayed in. I wish it was more stocked than what it is. Like, just your regular things like foil and wax paper and Ziploc bags and additional trash bags. I understand a lot of that I need to be bringing in myself, but the fact that there's no foil was quite what am I supposed to do? And which leads me to the next part, the grocery store here in town. It closes way early during the summer when it is the most trafficked here in this town, and they're always having problems with help. And we went in to get my husband's fishing license, and they legitimately told him that we aren't printing licenses because we're short-staffed, so we're just not doing it. And my husband was like, then why do you have the option for it? Just because you're short-staffed, there weren't very many people in the grocery store at the time. They just didn't want to help him. So, and every time we've been there, it gets more run down each time. There's things missing on the shelves. They have whole sections of their store that have nothing in them. And I actually think the owner was in yesterday going around with one of the managers. The manager that he was going around with is not a friendly human, and is probably the one that told him they were short-staffed and weren't going to be printing fishing license. First of all, they make money when they print a fishing license. It may not be a lot, but they do get money from the state in order to provide that service. So yeah, but she was going around with what appeared to be the owner, and they were talking about the things that weren't really selling and how to reorganize and whatever. And I just wanted to pull the owner aside and be like, first impressions matter, dude. Your store is a wreck. There are large gaps with no product. And now your bathrooms aren't open to the public. Your store is falling apart. And also, the grocery store is the only business in town that also has a gas station. They are literally the only gas station in town up until a couple months ago, when a new one was built and opened. It is literally going to crush their business. And this new gas station, which I've been into now, is not even ready. They're still doing construction. They're still trying to get product on their shelves, but they have gas. and their gas pumps work, and their building is nice, and their options are going to be bountiful, and it's going to kill this Rainbow grocery store and gas station. They're going to have to really get up on their toes forever. Rainbow Grocery and the Rainbow gas station didn't have a paved parking lot. So when it would rain, it would become a mud pit trying to get in and out of there. And it's just like they didn't care because they were it. They were your only option until you got to Pagosa Springs, which meant you had to go through a massive mountain pass to get over there, or you had to drive 20 minutes to the next town to get to gas and grocery. So they were the only thing, so they didn't care. And I think that is now going to hurt them because they didn't care. And their employees, like, you don't even know who works there because nobody's in any kind of like attire that makes it look like, just throw an apron over your head so people know you work there. Like, the way the employees dress, their appearance, and I get it, you have to be very careful as an employer on how you like educate and say, hey, these are our standards for working here. I get that that's a fine line, but you got to have some standards. Like the people that were in the checkout line and just, it's so much. And this is why first impressions matter. So my question for you and your business, because first impressions matter and it is what keeps people talking. So if it is a bad first impression, you're not going to get repeat business. So your first impression really, really matters. So my questions to you are, what's the first impression your potential clients have of you? Do you blend in? Are you forgettable? Are you creating friction for people that keeps them from reaching out? Those are the things that I need you to think about in your own business. What sets you apart? I don't want you to overthink that part because truly it's very simple to know what sets you apart. What makes you better? Like, do you have more experience than the next person? Do your clients get the best results? Do you provide better service? Is your solution faster for somebody? Like, what makes you better? And then you've heard me talk about this over and over and over if you have been a listener of this show for any length of time. What's your why? This will help you connect with your audience and help you stand out. In a world of ice cream, and yes, this analogy is so random, but in a world of ice cream, don't just be vanilla. You are better than that. So I want you to think about these things, like on your homepage of your website or even on your social media bios, your first impressions for people. Who are you? What are you an expert in? Who do you serve? How can you benefit or how can your clients benefit from your services? And then how do they connect with you? Like, what are they supposed to do next once they get that first really good impression? So again, I want you to ask yourself, what's the first impression your potential clients have of you? And how can you make a better first impression if you think you need to? And I think we always need to be fine-tuning our first impressions, how people are, Googling us or how people are reviewing our Instagram profile or our TikTok profile. I recently noticed that my YouTube, it's very interesting how all of these platforms, like who they attract and what they're willing to do. And so I am putting my shorts over on, or I'm using YouTube Shorts. So I'm using my short form content and I'm placing it over on YouTube. And I get more thumbs down on my content over on YouTube. Now, granted, on Instagram and TikTok, there's not a thumbs down feature, but YouTube has trained people that they can thumbs up something and they can thumbs down something. And so I get a lot of feedback, which is so random. And I'm like, wow. Why did that not hit the mark for that person? But again, the shorts feed over on YouTube is not necessarily attracting my ideal customer. It is just randomly populating in a feed, right? So I am hitting both my ideal customer and my not ideal customer, but my not ideal customer really likes that thumbs down feature, which is humorous. Like, I feel like I've made it because I'm getting thumbs down. So it's very interesting for sure. It's very interesting. But also, like, what first impressions over all of these platforms are you offering for people? And is it in alignment still with what you're offering and who you're wanting to serve and who your ideal client is, all backed behind your why? Why are you even doing this? So again, what sets you apart? Please don't overthink that. What makes you better, and why are you doing this? And why does it matter? That's what I want you to answer. I actually just recently fully upgraded or redid the House of Sugar Creek's website because I felt like it was no longer in alignment with what I'm doing through my YouTube channel and through my shorts content, my short form content. And so I overhauled it. And I think it's in much better alignment now, but it's also like, what is that first impression? Are people going to know that I'm a gardener? Are people going to know that I am interested in sharing homesteading content? Are people going to know that I am building a barn dominium hanger house? Like, all of that matters. And the way we present it to people matters. So again, what's the first impression your potential clients have of you right now? And do you need to improve upon that? Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I hope you truly have a great rest of your week. Until next time. And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.